Hi guys, it's Rebecca. Thank you so much for joining me for today's video. Today's video is going to be my February wrap up, and these are the books that I read in the month of February. Every time I say hi guys, it's Rebecca, this one comes running to the camera. It's like her cue, like, oh, I'm on camera now. But anyway, like I was saying, these are the books that I read in the month of February. I only read 5, which is still pretty good. I'm used to reading about 7 or 8, but I didn't have a lot of time to read, and even though I only read 5, like there were 4 of them were audiobooks. So usually when I read audiobooks or listen to audiobooks, I read more a month. But this month I listened to 4 and I actually only physically read 1, and that's the one that I read when I was on vacation. So as you guys can see, I've been super busy. I really haven't had time to actually sit, relax, and read. Just listen to audiobooks while I'm in the car, getting ready, cleaning, going for a run or whatever. So yeah, hopefully March will be a better reading month, and by better meaning I have time to read an actual book and not just rely on audiobooks. But anyway, I read 5, and I did not meet my goal either to read a 500 long page book. The biggest book that I have here in my stack of books is 480. So I didn't quite read a 500 book, but I already started reading a 500 page book. There's still a few days before I'm pre-filming this, and I already started reading that book, but there's no way I'm going to finish it this last week of February, so that'll go on to March. So hopefully I can get a head start in reading this one and I can sneak in another 500 page book. But anyway, read 5 books, and let's get to the A to Z portion of it, okay? So out of those 5, I was able to complete 4 more letters of the alphabet. Quick recap, I have completed A, J, and M, and this time around I was able to add 4 more to that, so I will start with those. For the letter E, I read El Paso by Winston Groom. He is the author of Forrest Gump. I didn't know anything about this book other than it said in El Paso, where I live, and so I thought it just the title caught my attention. I was kind of browsing book outlet a while back, and I saw it, and I picked it up. I thought it's going to be really interesting, and then funnily enough, it was available on Overdrive via my library. So I went ahead and I picked it up and I listened to it. I enjoyed it. This is kind of a Western story. It's set in El Paso, and it's about around the time of the Mexican Revolution. Pancho Villa is one of our main characters here, and then we read about the importance of El Paso between the war, how a lot of people from the States were passing to Mexico through El Paso, and how the troops from Mexico wanted to come to the U.S. through El Paso. So in this book, El Paso sets a very important it's a very important place, because a lot of things were going on in it was kind of like a political, it was of high political importance, let's just say. I'm not very familiar with Pancho Villa or his story, so what we read here in this book, I'm not sure how much truth there is to that about him, but I enjoyed it. It felt a little bit slow for me, unfortunately. It didn't have me like, I didn't feel like it was like super action packed, but it kept me entertained enough that I could pay attention to it. Sometimes when audiobooks don't get my attention, I kind of have to like rewind or restart it because I forget and I'm not really listening. Didn't happen with this book, but I did notice that I was kind of just like, okay, let's get to the point, kind of like a slow burn, if you will. For that reason, I only gave it 3 out of 5 stars, but I enjoyed it. It was fun to read a story that is set in my town, so that's this one. I also completed the letter G, and I read The Girl Who Takes an Eye for an Eye by David Lagercrantz. This is the 5th book in the Millennium series. The Millennium series were the original trilogy was The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, and so on and so forth, written by Stieg Larsson. I think Stieg Larsson died, but then this guy decided to pick up the series and continue it. He already wrote, what is the name of the other one? The Girl in the Spider's Web. That's the 4th one. And then this one, I am not really liking it. These are supposed to be centered around Elizabeth Salander, but I feel like she was kind of missing from this story. I feel like Mr. Blomqvist, I hope I'm saying the names right. I think he's kind of like taking center stage after this guy took over, and I'm not a big fan of it. In this book, we're supposed to be following Elizabeth Salander. Uh, she's in prison, and she escapes prison because she has found out that she might have been the victim of an experiment. So she goes back to Michael Blomqvist, sorry, and she asks him for help to see to investigate that. And like I said, I feel like even though it's her story, I feel like Mikael kind of took over center stage. He kind of stole her thunder, and I feel like that's what he's doing in every single book. Not as fast paced, not as and thrilling as the original trilogy was. So I don't know if I'm gonna continue with the series. I gave this 3.5 out of 5 stars. Next, for the letter P, I read The Proposal by Jasmine Guillory. This is a romantic chick lit book. We follow Nick and Carlos. It's your typical story of let's just be friends, no attachments, but then somebody develops feelings and the other person is in denial of their feelings, and then they hurt each other because one wants more than what the other person, and that wasn't the deal to begin with. So how Nick and Carlos met is this girl, Nicole, she's at a baseball game, and her boyfriend then decides to propose to her on camera, and she says no. So he makes a scene and leaves her there, and then Carlos and his sister Angela are there. They're total strangers, but they're the kind strangers that rescue her from being harassed by the cameras because, you know, it's a big show because she said no to the guy, and then the guy like insulted her in front of like the cameras. Everything's like happening on the big screen, and then he leaves her there. So that's how they met, and then that's how they become friends. This book was okay. I think I would have enjoyed it a little bit more. There's a relationship that Carlos has with his cousin that I think is just like way too much, or maybe I'm just not as attached to my cousins as him and his cousin are, but I just find it to be a little bit creepy. They're just way too close, and it was kind of like, I don't know, I just thought it was weird. Other than that, it was an okay read. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. Then last letter that I completed was W, and for that I read When Life Gives You Lululemons by Laura Weisberger. All these names that I can't pronounce. But this is kind of like the third book in The Devil Wears Prada. I didn't even know there was a second book. I know it was the same author from the Devil Wears Prada, but when I saw it said A Devil Wears Prada novel, I thought it was the second one. But no, this is the third one. The second one follows Andy and Emily. This just follows Emily. But anyway, now I want to read the second one because I just feel like I have to. But anyway, this was my favorite book of the month. I gave it 4 stars, and we follow Emily, who has moved to Los Angeles and has become kind of like a person, like those people that represent celebrities, a publicist. There you go. And she's kind of losing clients to another new up-and-coming publicist, and she's kind of struggling. And she all of a sudden gets the opportunity to represent a former model who is wrongly accused of a DUI. There's kind of like a mystery element as to what is happening. How was this supermodel framed for this DUI? And we follow Emily trying to solve the mystery of how did this supermodel get framed and basically her life ruined, and who's trying to do that to her. So it was like high stakes Hollywood mystery, but it's super fun. It's super fast paced read. I laughed a couple of times and it read super fast. I didn't struggle with it at all. I loved it. If you like a good contemporary chick lit book, this is a good one. It didn't have the best reviews on Goodreads, but this is one of the ones that I completely disagree. I really enjoyed every single part of this book. So that's why I'm saying I really want to read the second one, because I love The Devil Wears Prada, and I loved this one, so I'm pretty sure I'm gonna love the second one too. But anyway, that's this one. Really enjoyed it. And then last but not least, I read The Emerald Sea by Rochelle Mead. This is the third book in the Glittering Court series. I don't know if it's gonna be a trilogy or if she's gonna be writing about more people, but this is the third one, and I can't go into too much detail because even though each book is its own separate story, the stories are based off of the first book. So I feel like you need to know what has happened in the previous books to know Tamsin. This is Tamsin's story. So in the Glittering Court is this kind of like school where low-income girls go in to learn proper etiquette and become good suitors for rich men. So the men go in and pay a fee to marry one of these girls who are kind of like up and coming in society. And in the first book, there is a shipwreck, and Tamsin is in that ship. So we follow Tamsin's story about that shipwreck and what she went through in this book. So that's why I don't want to say too much. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a fun book. Felt a little bit young to me. I really enjoyed the Glittering Court, and the second one, which the name is escaping my head right now. Midnight Jewel, that's what it's called. So the Glittering Court follows Adelaide, the Jewel Sea? What did I say? Midnight Jewel follows Mira, and then the Emerald Sea follows Tamsin. Like I said, I don't know if she's gonna continue with any of the other girls and write any more books, but so far I have completed the trilogy and I really enjoyed it. Then for the PopSugar reading challenge, I was able to complete a few prompts. The first two prompts fit the proposal, and that is a book with the same title as a movie or show, but it's unrelated. So this is called The Proposal, and we have the movie The Proposal with Sandra Bullock, which is not, that movie is about this boss who marries her, or wants to marry her assistant to avoid being deported, and that has nothing to do with this book. So good thing the titles fit. And then also a book by an author with flora or fauna in their name. Jasmine is a flower, so that qualifies for that prompt. And the last prompt that I completed was a book that you picked because the title got your attention, and for that was El Paso. As I mentioned before, once I saw it on Book Outlet, it really intrigued me because I have never seen a book set in El Paso. I feel like nobody knows about El Paso. They might know now because of the shooting, but I feel like before then, like nobody knew what El Paso was or anything about it. So that's why I picked this one. Or I should say that's how this book, so there you go, guys. Small reading wrap up this month. February is a short month to begin with, and I was very busy. So anyway, that's what it is. We'll see you next month in March. Hopefully I'll be able to read a little bit more. My reading goal for this year is to read 75 books, and so far I have read 62. So no, I have 62 left. I haven't read 62. I have 62 left. So I think I can do it. I have 10 months left. So I need to read about 6 books a month to make sure that I stay on track. But that's it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.